For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh. Wedding bells are ringing today on this episode as we talk about the romantic comedy home invasion slasher. This is Borderline. Borderline tells the story of a obsessed fan who goes to great lengths to marry his pop star crush. Between this and Smile 2, I have learned two lessons about Ray Nicholson. For one, he has a thing when it comes to pop stars. Two, somebody please get him the Joker role in the DCU, and let's make him the first legacy actor to pick up the Clown Prince of Crime in a new movie. All joking aside, Nicholson is a standout performance here, along with Samara Weaving, that I'll talk about in just a few minutes. But Nicholson here just absolutely commits. Now, this is the first long format role I've personally seen him in, and he made an impression on me last year with Smile 2. I really thought he was utterly fantastic here. One of the best performances, and one of the reasons this movie works as well as it does. Samara Weaving also an incredible performance, has an immense amount of charm and also badassery, so definitely channeling some of that Scream 6, Ready or Not charm here, as well as I would even say Bill and Ted Face the Music, a little bit of comedy chops here as well. There's just something about Weaving, the way that she's able to kind of tap in to that final girl energy that I really love and thought was just an incredible fit. And she, again, much like Nicholson, just makes the movie work. Two standout performances here. That's not to say that none of the performances here are bad. Bad is not the case by any means. Eric Dane is another great performance we're talking about. I also want to point out Jimmy Fails in this movie, who delivers probably one of my favorite characters in this movie. Much like Nicholson, he really commits and just has scene-stealing performance after scene-stealing performance. It makes me really sad that I haven't seen him in anything really since the last Black Man in San Francisco. He crushed it in that movie, and he does the same here. And I would even say that him and Nicholson may go down as two of my favorite genre performances this year. This is your fair warning that this movie is a slow burn. While there are good things that happen throughout the course of this, and there is entertainment, it definitely has this crescendo effect to where it just climaxes in just a bonkers bananas way. With that said, I'll be honest, there is definitely a lot about this movie that didn't always grab me. There's a lot of stuff with Eric Dane's character that really kind of didn't need to be involved, and so you're given two or three characters that you don't really need to care about. Same goes for Nicholson's character as well. Like, they have a tendency to overcomplicate this movie just for the sake of a higher body count, and for the majority of that, that's a legitimate complaint, whereas a large cast that tells such a simple story, actually, this film has a pretty low body count. I will say this movie does have pretty cool gags with it and how they use those low body counts, but again, it just overcomplicates the film to have a cast this large for a story this simple. And I think that's partially why I had such an issue with some of the pacing, is because I'm being given one-note characters that I don't give a crap about, or are at least even given a reason as to why I should care, but yet we're still spending time here. And honestly, there is a point in this film where I really wish they would have kind of beefed up the Fails character way more than they did other characters, because Fails, while he is amazing in this movie, is kind of treated as a secondary or tertiary character, and his character arc really suffers a lot from that, which in turn makes this movie suffer a lot from it as well. There are a couple scenes throughout the course of this film that definitely feel out of tone or out of step with the rest of the film. And while they are cool sequences, they just feel largely out of place. Definitely feels like Jimmy Warden, the writer-director of this movie, definitely had some ideas. He didn't know really how to bring those ideas into the fold as smoothly as possible and kind of just went for it. I respect that to a degree, but also at the same time, looking at this film from start to finish, definitely those sequences definitely make the movie suffer. I feel like there are definitely moments within this film where I was supposed to be laughing or I was supposed to find something funny. And for the first two acts, this movie really struggles to find its footing in the comedy of this film. But once it does find it, it is actually a genuinely funny and entertaining film. I mean, the third act of this movie is well worth recommending this movie and kind of enduring some of the issues that this film has. But overall, this is a really fun film, and with that, I'm ready to run this one through the Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Borderline a 3.5 out of 5. I think overall, this is a really fun film. This is a little bit of a quirky spin on the home invasion subgenre that is a lot more tense or is usually typically a lot more thematically heavy, whereas this is really light. The performances here are really well worth mentioning as well. Ray Nicholson, Jimmy Fails, Samara Weaving, Eric Dane, among really standout performances here. Comedy is a little bit hit or miss for the most part. It does have really good gags, but there is a large cast that doesn't necessarily need to be here, and the movie suffers severely because of it. Borderline releases in limited release from Magnet Entertainment beginning March 14th, so tomorrow. So if it is in your area, check your local listings and give this one a check out. And with that said, let's talk about mental health, shall we? If you guys are new to our content, we take a theme of mental health out of the film which we're reviewing, talk about it for a few moments in the hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. I think it would really be easy to kind of talk about the delusional nature of the Nicholson character in this, but honestly, I want to talk about the obsession or the obsessive state that Nicholson's character has, rather. I'm going to share a really embarrassing story with you, but I believe in being vulnerable because I believe that a lack of vulnerability is the reason that there's such a stigma surrounding mental health. So here goes nothing. When my wife and I started dating, I had a unhealthy obsession with Katy Perry. I knew all of the words to the songs. I knew every factoid about her. I had her very, very first album when she went under the name Katie Hudson. I mean, I was a man that just absolutely adored this girl. Very similarly, but not to the great lengths that you see here in Borderline. You're probably asking yourself, why am I embarrassing myself in this fashion? And it's because I want to say that as a word of warning to kind of slow down and enjoy the things that you're going to enjoy at healthy levels. Because even though something as simple as pop music or horror movies, even though they seem simple and innocent in nature, having a unhealthy attachment to them actually messes with our brains. It can actually result in feelings of anxiety, disgust, or unease that, untreated over time, can really have a lasting impression on how you handle your day-to-day life. And it can also affect your outside parameters as well, whether that be work, friends, colleagues, whatever it, which also in turn can have their own mental health effects that could be potentially long lasting. So what I'm trying to say is that obsession can be one of those things that can have a ripple effect for your mental health. What starts out as something very innocent can, if unchecked or left unsupervised, so to say, can really have a harmful, lasting impression or effects on your mental health. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, click the links in our show notes below to check out our mental health resource library. That's going to do it for us on this episode of Victims and Villains. Borderline once again opens in limited release tomorrow, March 14th from Magnet Entertainment. Check your local listings. So until next time, remember to keep it classy and keep it spooky. Have a good night.